Hello and welcome back to the channel. As you can see, I'm in a little bit of a different place than the garden. That's because I've decided to do a bit of a gardening question and answer session for this video. I put a call out on Instagram yesterday for any of your gardening questions, and I've got a whole bunch here that I'm going to go through and give you the answers as best as I know them. But if you're new here, welcome. My name is Michael and I love all things gardening, specifically fruit and veggie gardening. So if that's something that you're into, you have come to the right place. Now, let's get growing. So the first question we have here from Journaling with Nature: seed raising mix from the store never works well. Any good seed raising mix recipes? Well, yes. What I like to do with my seed raising, or when creating a seed raising mix, is actually get a good premium seed raising mix from the store, but then I add to it. So I like to also get some coconut coir, that hard block that you get from the store of compacted coconut husks. You pop that in some water and it expands and it becomes really fluffy. And then I mix that with the seed raising mix it all together. The coconut coir is going to help retain moisture in the mix so it doesn't dry out too quickly, which happens a lot. And that's probably why the majority of your seeds don't come up, is because the mix is dried out and the seeds need that constant moisture. So that is my little recommendation for turning that store-bought seed raising mix from okay into great, adding some coconut coir to it. The next question that we have here from katie.iz.me: can you put zucchini leaves with powdery mildew in a hot compost? Yes, you can. I wouldn't recommend putting it in just a cold compost that you're just letting sit, because the fungus can just spread. But if you have a hot compost, this is a compost that you create. It needs to be usually about 1 cubic square meters of composting material, and you need to get the ratios of nitrogen and carbon right so that the compost itself increases in temperature and sits above 60 degrees Celsius. So you need it to sit above 60 degrees Celsius for that the fungus, the powdery mildew, to actually be killed. So you can compost your powdery mildew leaves as long as you get that hot compost correct, you get the temperatures correct. Hot composting isn't for everyone. It does take a little bit of skill to get those temperatures and the ratios right to create that temperature, because you've got to, as I said, get it above 60, but you don't want it to get higher than around 80 degrees. So you've got that 20 degrees that you want it to sit between. If you go higher, then you start killing all the good beneficial microbes that are in there, breaking everything down. So yeah, maybe I'll do a future video on hot composting. Next, we have one from Amal_Issa0. I want to grow potatoes this year. Where can I get the potatoes from? Well, I'm going to grow some potatoes too this year, because my crop last year was very successful. Now, sourcing some potatoes, your best bet is to probably source them from a local nursery. Your local independent nurseries should do them. Where I work here in the Barossa Valley, we get the chitting potatoes in, and you can buy a whole bunch of different varieties. If your local nursery doesn't sell seed potatoes, you can just get them delivered out to you from a reputable seed seller. Some reputable sellers that I've used in the past, Happy Valley Seeds, they do potatoes. Somewhere like the Diggers Club will also do seed potatoes, and also another company, the Seed Collection. They're just 3, but there's probably a whole bunch. I'm not sponsored by any of those people, but I've just used them in the past. So they're reputable sellers that you're going to get some good quality seed potatoes from. Now, I do have a whole bunch of questions asking about my rat problem. If you're following along on Instagram, you would know I have a bit of a rat rat problem in the garden. They ate my one and only rock melon, and I was devastated. And now I don't know, I think it's just one rat, or it might be multiple rats in my greenhouse digging through my seedlings or my seeds. They haven't been sown yet, and eating the seedlings. So pretty devastating. So I've got how do you deal with the rats from Kath and Kingy, Jolly_Bobby, sorry for the loss of your rock melon. How do you deal with rats and not harming wildlife? Nin_Nichols, I have a rat that's eaten my broccoli through an enclosed net. Don't want to kill it. Francis Bourgeois, I think that's right. How will you stop the rats eating your garden? And I think that's all the rat questions. Well, another one from Mustang_Sally01. How do you discourage rabbits and bandicoots from coming into your garden? Not specifically rats, but still pests. Well, you've got a few routes to take. You can look at the worst route, which is to poison them. Not something that I really want to do. I'm not one for killing things. If that's something that doesn't really bother you, make sure you look at what types of poisons you are using, because you want a poison that's just going to kill the rat itself and not kill any secondary predators. So if an owl was to eat that dead rat, it wouldn't then kill the owl. So you do need to be careful when you're going down that road. Other options, the options that I prefer is to look at things like exclusionary netting, protecting your fruit and veg as best you can from the rats. Or the third option is to catch them safely and then move them on to somewhere else. So you can get traps that you put some food in the end and they go in there, and then it closes, and then they're just contained in a little square box, perspex box, that you can then take them and drive them down the road and set them free in the local park. Now, some people may not like that option either, because some animals are considered pests. Things like rabbits here in Australia are considered a pest, and I don't believe you're actually supposed to let them go down at the local park, because they just cause havoc. So it is a tough one to think about, but as long as you can try and keep them out of your own garden, I guess that's the main thing, trying to keep them free. A way to try and deter animals like rats is putting things out that they don't like the smell of. So for rats, something like onions, or the smell of mothballs or garlic, or even getting a cayenne pepper and sprinkling that around. You could even sprinkle it on some of the veg that you think they're going to eat. So if you have a nice rock melon, sprinkle some cayenne pepper on the outside of the rock melon, which you're not going to eat, but it's going to discourage the rat from eating it as well, because I don't think they like the hot taste of cayenne pepper. I've also seen things like, you can get the plug-in like sonic emitters, which create a certain sound which is supposed to discourage them. Again, I've never used one, so I'm not too sure how well they do work. If you do know, if you've tried them at home, maybe let me know in the comments if they are a good option, or if they're just an expensive piece of plastic you're going to plug into your wall. Next up we have, where was I? Melissa Amy Griffith. What is the best soil preparation now for the new season's planting, and when? Well, the when is, I guess, depends on when you have a bed free. At the moment, some of my beds are still going strong with some of the veg, so I'm not going to pull things out just yet. But once you do have a bed free, I really don't do too much in the way of preparation. I will get some fresh compost and lay that across the top, and also something like a pelletized chicken manure that you can get from the store, and you can just sprinkle that over the top as well. So I like to add a nice layer to the top of the soil that I've just pulled everything out of, give that a good water, and I'd probably leave it for a few days, at least a week, before I start planting my next season's crop into it. Next on the questions list from Lazesso, I don't know if that's right. My apologies if it's not. We have lily pillies we are growing as a screener. Should I trim the bottom branches? Well, that depends on the look that you're going for. So lily pillies are pretty hardy. You can have it as a proper hedge where it's going to have leafy greenness to the whole length of the lily pilly itself. But if you want to create a bit more of a feature, so maybe you just want the trunk and then you want the hedge a bit higher that's going to sit above the fence, you can definitely trim all those branches below the level of the fence that you want. This will give you maybe some extra room on the ground where you can plant some lower growing things, some flowers and that sort of stuff. So the look, if you keep the trunk clear and then just a little section of hedge across the top, is like pleaching, and it gives a nice sort of uniform and bit of a formal look to the hedge at home. So again, it just depends on the look that you are going for in your yard. With a lily pilly, you can do either keep it all nice and green or keep the trunk clear and just keep the hedge at the top. But in saying that, the growth along the trunk is going to continue to come back. So it is going to be a continual maintenance. Every time you see a little bit of leaf popping out from one of the branches, from one of the trunks, you just need to snip that off to discourage it from really coming back. I'll go through a few more questions, but if it's something that you have found some value in, let me know in the comments. And if you've joined me from YouTube but not seen me over on Instagram, let me know your questions in the comments below and maybe I'll compile those together and do a future question and answer session. Next is from actually.its.siobhan. Hacks for growing sunflowers. I've tried in 2 seasons now, but no luck. I'm in Perth. Well, Perth growers, as best as I am aware, you have very, very sandy soils. So sunflowers they like well-drained soils, but probably not as well-drained as it would be in Perth. So you need to add a lot of enrichment to it. So adding some compost into the area that you're going to be growing in. They're fairly hungry as well as thirsty. So you are going to need to give them some boost throughout the growing season. So every couple of weeks, I'd give them a liquid fertilizer and keep up the watering to them. A good soak probably once every day. And hopefully that will give you the nice big happy sunflowers that you're after. I got another one here from Siobhan. I'm assuming it's her name because it's Siobhan. Also recommendations for drip irrigating or drip watering connected to a water tank. For a drip irrigation that you're connecting to a water tank, the only way that that's going to work is if you have a pump on the tank. If it's only gravity fed, the pressure is not going to be enough to push that water out and through into the emitters that are going to force out that water. So if you do have a pump, then just get your 13mm brown line, which has drippers on it every 30 centimeters or so. It pushes out about 2 liters of water per hour. Something like that will work well. But if you don't have a pump, unfortunately, it's not going to work. Tanya 72000. What do you do with strawberry plant runners? My plant puts out more runners than fruit, which can be a problem. There's a couple of things you can do. You can either cut off those runners and hope that the plant will start pushing out some fruit. You need to keep up the water to strawberries. Again, they can be a bit thirsty. You need to give them lots and lots of water. But the runners are the future plants that you want. Depends how old your strawberry plant is. A strawberry plant, although perennial, is very short-lived perennial. It's only going to last for 2, maybe 3 years, and the amount of strawberries you get each year is going to reduce. That's why you want those runners to create the new plants that are going to give you the the big abundance of strawberries in the future seasons, because you'll eventually be pulling out that original plant. Three more. Got three more. Ashley Roy. I have heaps of bugs all over my corn. Any hints on how to avoid? Thanks so much. Bugs do love corn. It is a bit of a problem. If you don't see lots of beneficials around, maintaining that population, some natural options are using like an insecticidal soap. Well, probably the first option is getting a hose and trying to blast them off as best you can. Otherwise, using an insecticidal soap or maybe a neem oil is another way to go. Also, diatomaceous earth. It comes in a powder form. You can sprinkle that around at the base of the corn stalks, and that should discourage the bugs from climbing up and getting into your corn. Mr. Betteridge, what's your favourite garden job to complete? That's a hard one. I just like being out in the garden, getting my hands dirty and getting in there. Watering, I enjoy watering. I find watering very therapeutic. Just standing there, watching the plants as you're hosing them down. That is always fun. That's probably one of my favourite things to do in the garden. I know weeding is one of my least favourite jobs to do. But yeah, that's a hard question to answer. It's like asking, which is your favourite child? And my last question, Mustang_Sally01, another question from you. The first one was in regards to your rabbits and bandicoots, which I sort of answered. I'll mix that in with the rat question. Can you transplant or take cuttings as not sure where it starts of wisteria? Well, yes, you can. You can get the wispy little strands, tendrils, branches that come off the wisteria, and you can take cuttings from those. It's a fairly easy process, making sure you keep a node that will be below the soil, and that's where the roots will emerge from. You could try and use some sort of rooting hormone, some honey, but most times if you just stick it into the soil, it will take root. Maybe give that one a bit of a look up online, as I'm sure there's plenty of videos on how to successfully take wisteria cuttings, but I know you definitely can. Well, I think that will just about do it for this question and answer session. Again, if you've enjoyed it, let me know. If you have any questions for future session, let me know in the comments. And be sure to give me a like and a subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye.